And when I was 16 years old, I had to make a decision whether I was going to stay disempowered or whether I was going to leave and choose freedom. And I chose freedom. And just like that, overnight, I lost all of my friends and family. But freedom continues to be my number one value.
Hi, I'm Carol Podell, and this is She Takes the Lead.
Hi, party people. It's Carol. I hope you're having a great day. I am just doing fab. And I'm going to get right to it because I have a very cool guest today. Her name is Abigail Rebecca, and she is a human design business mentor and visibility expert. And she's just fascinating. She's awesome. If she's across my pond, but if she wasn't, we'd be besties, I have no doubt, and we'd be going for drinks all the time. Or in this case now, mocktails. But either way, you don't need alcohol to have a good time with her. She's insightful and interesting, and she has an extraordinary story. And where she started and then where she has taken herself is amazing. And it's really a testament to her own steam and insight and ability. So Abigail Rebecca empowers business owners and creative change makers to rise as, I love this word, iconic leaders in the Aquarian age, specializing in working with projectors and channeling cosmic guidance. She helps attract opportunities that align with your precious energy so you can be seen, heard, and recognized for your unique insights and gifts. So she creates a strategy where you stop hustling for recognition and you make money while you rest and effortlessly attract seven-figure success, creating a life of freedom, prosperity, and deep inner bliss. So before she works with private clients, both in person and virtually, she hosts workshops, online events, global retreats. She is a public speaker. She serves Fortune 500 companies and brings them, and she delivers transformative leadership experiences to organizations that recognize the need for a tailored and holistic approach to developing their leaders. And just so this is clear, this is in the corporate world. This isn't just for individuals or small business owners or entrepreneurs. She works within the corporate universe to do this, which I think is kind of extraordinary. And because I know what it's like to be in the corporate world, and it's not always this kind of work, the work that she does, I see the connection, but it's not always seen. So for her to amass a clientele of corporate world, which she also comes from, is pretty impressive. I personally had my own human design done by her, and it was fascinating. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Abigail Rebecca. Hi, Abby. How are you?
Hi, I'm really good. Exciting to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
I'm so happy that you're joining us. You are She Takes the Lead embodied. So I'm very excited for our conversation.
That's very high praise indeed. Thank you.
No pressure, none at all.
No.
I know you're bringing it, so I'm confident to say that. I don't say it all the time. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you came here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So obviously I'm based in the UK. I'm really big on empowering women. Like that's what I love to do. That's my jam. That's my zone of genius. So I'm a human design visibility mentor, and I empower women to be iconic. And the biggest tool that I use to do that is through human design, which I'm sure that we can talk about a little bit later on. But the reason that I'm so sold on this, and because I feel that this is my life purpose, is that I was brought up to be very disempowered as a woman. So I was brought up in a religious cult. I wasn't allowed to have an opinion on anything. I wasn't allowed to challenge anything. Had to sit down and be quiet. I was raised to be a wife and a mother, and a very submissive wife and mother at that. And there's nothing wrong with being a wife and a mother. I mean, that's a beautiful role to have in life if you choose it. But I didn't really choose it.
Yeah, that choice piece is a big one.
It's a big one.
But I was being raised to be one. My father chose all of my subjects at school, and they were needlework, cookery, childcare. You get the vibe, right?
Wow. Yes.
So obviously, I'm quite a free spirit. And from when I was little, I realized that my parents loved me very, very much, but I just was not aligning with any of it. I just didn't believe in it. I didn't agree with it. I was very challenging, and I was probably quite a difficult child to manage in that respect. And when I was 16 years old, I had to make a decision whether I was going to stay disempowered and that was going to be a lot my life, like my siblings, or whether I was going to leave and choose freedom. And I chose freedom.
Wow.
And just like that, overnight, I lost all of my friends and family. The whole of my community just completely rejected me. But freedom continues to be my number one value. And I relished freedom. I went and traveled the world for 10 years. I lived in a different country every 6 months. I went and worked in ski resorts and summer resorts, and I had the most fabulous time. And then I came back to the UK in my 30s and built my career and really, really hustled hard in my career in order to kind of climb my way to the top. And in the process, completely burnt myself out and made myself very ill with a very serious heart condition. And I think that was the wake-up call for me to really reevaluate my life and just think, okay, what do you really want to do? And what I really wanted to do was to start my business. So that's what I did in 2016. I left corporate and I started my business very unsuccessfully, just continued to hustle and work hard and in my business, and had so many challenges along the way, and paid a lot, like invested a lot of money in coaching programs and mentors who, with the very best will in the world, were teaching me how to hustle and how to initiate. And it wasn't until I discovered my human design that I realized that I was designed to do things in a different way. So that was probably about 5 years ago now. And that's when I started to introduce it into my business, introduced it to my clients who absolutely loved it. So now I teach clients one-on-one. I have online courses. I run retreats, global retreats. I do a lot of work with corporate as well. I've collaborated with Disney. I've actually got a Disney pen.
Oh, Disney. I worked for Disney too when I was at ABC. Disney ears.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've done leadership training with Disney and Royal Caribbean, Santander, which is a global finance company. Soho House, I do a lot of work with Soho House, with leadership teams and with their members as well. And my purpose in life really is to help women to be more visible so that they can go out there and be recognized and known and grow their business, build their business to 7 figures.
Amazing. I mean, besides the fact that there's so much to unpack.
Yeah, there is quite a lot.
That's a lot to unpack. And that was just impressive. That was talked through that well, first of all. Explain a little bit about what you mean when you say iconic, that you help women become iconic. I love this phrase and I love the imagery around it, but I really want to hear what you mean, like what you're saying with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say definitely go and look in the dictionary because it gives a better interpretation of it.
It's fine.
But for me, iconic is someone who is known and recognized and valued for doing something really major, right? So it's about really standing out. So I work with a lot of women, female entrepreneurs, business owners, founders who might already be going out there and doing their thing. They're not exactly hiding behind a rock. So they're going out, but they're not really playing to their full potential in terms of their speaking or their visibility. There's something that is holding them back from going out there and being more visible. And a lot of women that I work with still have imposter syndrome or worries about being rejected, worries about being criticized. I work with a lot of women that are worried about being too much. That's a phrase that I hear a lot. So being iconic is not just about going out there and being visible. It's about standing out from the crowd, someone that has real influence and significance in a particular sphere. And I'd say every single woman that I've ever worked with that has ever come to take one of my programs or I've done a VIP day with, or has done one-to-one coaching, they are iconic, but maybe they don't believe it fully themselves. So I'm just there to facilitate it. I mean, I'm there to facilitate it and to bring it out of them.
That's the thing that I find interesting. And as I talk with some of my other, I mean, whether that's girlfriends or as I pursue my own work and as I talk with other people on the podcast and as I talk with people who I'm interested to speak with on the podcast, it's really interesting because the empowerment, and this is the word, it's such a used word, but that's the word, right? Like there's no other really word that has enough in it. But it is interesting to see these incredibly successful, high achieving women who are too much, right? Who, quote unquote, myself included, who feel like that's a bad thing. And that even besides the too much has actually been able to get them where they are in many, many ways. But then without giving it the credit or leaning into it in the way probably personal experience feels more natural, but also I think would feel it's almost like an alcoholic who and an artist, right, who's quashing the art because of the alcohol. And then when that breaks free or something like that, is that sort of, yeah, you're nodding. So tell me how that plays out.
It's interesting you mentioned the word empowered. And yes, it's used a lot. Of course it is. I've tried to replace it with different words like helped or like inspired. But empowered has got that real connotation behind it, like that powerful connotation. And I believe we need to be owning that as women. We need to be able to tap into our power to create these iconic businesses. It's all very well being kind and nurturing and community minded. Like these are all the wonderful attributes that we have naturally as women with our feminine energy. But we also need to bring in that male energy as well. It's the male energy that drives things forward. So for me, it embodies that. And I was having a wonderful conversation the other day with a new client of mine. I mean, she's an incredible, incredible woman. She's in her 50s. She is very empowered, full stop. She's got a fantastic career. She's done so much personal development. I mean, the leadership training that she takes people through is second to none. And still she's hesitating about what she really wants to create. She's worried about the reaction that she is going to have going out there and being as controversial as she wants to be.
Yes.
And that's what's holding her back. And that in turn is disempowering her. It's eating her up. So she's like, she knows what she wants to do and she knows what she wants to say, but she knows she's going to piss loads of people off in the process. And she's worried about losing things if she does that. And I said, well, you're losing yourself. So if you're going to lose yourself, you'll lose everything anyway. So that's the process that we're going through at the moment, or that she's going through. And I'm helping her with that and empowering her with that. I can hold a space for her. Only she can make the decision if she's going to step to it. But it's interesting how many women feel like that. And you've got that same energy as well, Carol, like for sure. Like whenever I speak to you, you've got that same energy. It's really amazing to see and should never, ever be held back.
It's funny as you said it, and thank you. But like, I know it wasn't a compliment. It was like that's a statement. But I appreciate you telling me that. As you were saying, it's interesting. Over the years, that's something that I kind of just stopped worrying about in the last few years. And I don't think I've ever even said this out loud, like to even my therapist, because I tell everything to her. But is that I've always been an advocate for women and I've always been a powerful woman. I was, for all the things, I was actually raised by a dad who liked strong women and likes women. And it makes a very big difference to be able to know your strength, even if I was still people pleasing and caretaking and really not focusing on myself. But the thing that is interesting, as you were saying, is that I related, especially when I was single. And then as I started my journey as a single mother or trying to become a single mother, is that I was constantly in a place of sort of apologizing enough if I started talking too much, leaning too much into the quote unquote feminist message, because I don't want anybody to think that I don't like men. And I don't mean sexually, I just mean in general. And it wasn't until recently that I kind of just started leaning into it and not worrying about it, because I have best friends that are men and have had best friends that are men. Like, I always had men friends. And for some reason, and it's not even to hurt them, but I felt like it would put me into a box of uber feminist, man hating, blah, blah, blah. If I leaned into wanting to help and empower and support women. And I've always been like the raw for my friends, my girlfriends. Like, I've always like, oh my God, this is amazing. Kind of, that's the way that I roll. Like, I want them to, but it's funny when you were talking about this, because I really like, I was like, right. I've never said this actually. I mean, I've literally never said this, that it is funny, no matter how, it's almost like that fear really, it shrinks you regardless. And it wasn't until I started just saying, fuck it, that I started, and on social media and all of that, that I started just going, okay, I don't care what anybody thinks about that. I still care, but it's very empowering.
It is. And here's the thing about client attraction. I mean, of course, it's like, this is about self-expression and about going out there and talking about what you want to talk about, not in a vanilla way. But also, if you look at that on a practical application of, we're in business, so we want money, right? It's not a hobby.
Amen.
So we want to attract clients. I always say that repelling clients that are not aligned to you and would be an absolute fucking nightmare is just as important as attracting in clients that are amazing for you. So who do we worry about offending? We worry about offending people that aren't even aligned to us.
That's totally right. I love how you said that. Yeah.
Seriously.
You're like, I don't even want them at my dinner table. Why would I try to attract them?
Exactly. Like, why am I bothered about offending someone that I would not even like invite into my home? Because with all the love in the world, we have very different opinions. So I'm just going to let you go with love and you go and do your own thing. And I'm going to be over here with my people. So it's funny when you were saying that, because I used to be like, no, women's impact. And then I'd be like, I'd always like almost like a bit of an apology or a bit of a caveat. I'd be like, but I really like men. I live with one.
Right. Like, they're mutually exclusive. I can't think women are empowered and still like actually like the other gender.
Exactly. And then I'm like, what am I saying? I'm still like, I'm going out there and having an opinion, a point of view. And then I'm trying to kind of clean up after myself just in case I offend someone. Well, the man that I do live with never, ever, ever in a million years ever gets offended by anything that I say online, because he gets it.
Right.
Yes, he's on my level. So I'm like, okay, well.
Which is what you want to attract also in a partner.
Exactly. Like the people that are like in your zone, like that are really aligned to you, that would be a pleasure to work with, hang out with, that you want to collaborate with, that you want to go into partnership with, for example, that you want them to hire you, they're the ones that will get it. And everyone else, well, they can go and listen and follow and work with someone that's aligned to them, because, and thank goodness for that, because that's what I love about this world. It's diverse. Everyone's got a different opinion. Everyone thinks differently if they allow themselves to. But, you know, this like pussyfooting around and all speaking the same language and saying the same thing, that's when you get swallowed up by this industry. And when you're iconic, that's when you stand out.
Mm,
and it's not being controversial just for the sake of it.
No.
It's doing it naturally and authentically from the heart.
Right. I mean, besides being boring, if everybody's saying the same fucking thing. But there's no good conversation either. Like, there's no development of new ideas and new innovation without that conflict, right? And yes, not conflict as conflict, but like speaking out and saying these things. You need this to move the needle.
Yeah. When you really get passionate about something, when you're really so passionate and you just want to share it with the world, it comes out naturally, but we still feel that we need to curb things. Just really quickly, just to use an example of style, I believe that we already had a conversation about hairbands.
Right. That's right. And also, you have an incredible style. I mean, and that's part of how you work with your clients, right?
Thank you. And yes, when I started my business, I trained to be a personal stylist at the London College of Fashion, and I love it. I still style my clients to this day. That's part of helping them to be more visible and iconic. And you can really set yourself apart by the way that you dress. I had a client who was really tapping more into her masculine energy, like quite significantly. And she was starting to show up in quite masculine clothes. But again, she was holding herself back from really going there. And I said, you want to wear bow ties and trilbies? Why don't you want to dress like this? Oh, because I'm worried that people will judge me, like that people won't want to come and work with me because of the way that I dress, because it's very clear who I am by the way that I dress. And I had exactly the same conversation with her. Like, would you really want to attract those people? Do you want to attract people that are like
Right.
turned off by a
Yeah.
woman dressing like in waistcoats and bow ties? Anyway, she got over that.
I would love to work with that person.
Oh, she did the most amazing
Seriously.
photo shoot in south of France at one of my retreats. And she had three-piece suit, a bow tie, trilby. She looked incredible. And she really rocked it. And guess what? She's attracting in the clients that she loves to work with, as opposed to people that she still has to put a mask on, right? Because
Right.
once you position yourself in a way that isn't authentic and not aligned to who you are, i.e. masking, you're going to have to put up with that all your life and keep that pretense up. And you can't do that. You're just always going to attract in people that are attracted to that version of yourself, not really you. And that's exhausting.
It is exhausting. That is a brilliant word for it, too. It is exhausting. It is exhausting. So I'm going to make a little bit of a left. I know it's not, but so tell me how human design plays into this, because that is really your toolbox, or it's part of your, it's a big part of your toolbox. Yes?
Yes, it really is. And it's the first thing that I do. I would never, ever be able to help another woman to be more visible and iconic without knowing about her human design. So if you've never heard of human design, the best way to describe it is if you come from a corporate background, like we do, imagine that Myers-Briggs and astrology became lovers and had a child, a love child. That's human design.
That is the sexiest way I've ever heard it described. Well done, my friend.
And they had this child in Ibiza. I mean, it was born in Ibiza in the 80s. So that's where the downloads came to Ra, who downloaded. So basically, it's like a blueprint of your aura. So it shows you what your energy is, the best way to manage it, how to build relationships, your purpose and mission in this world, how you empower others. For me, when I read someone's human design chart and start to work with someone in that way, I know exactly what they can tap into in terms of their natural strength and how they can talk about what they're really good at in order to be able to sell things. So it also shows you like where you can sell from, what part of your being you sell from, and what part of your being you guide from. And for me, it was a complete game changer because I'm a human design projector, which is about 20% of the population. So I'm not designed to initiate. I'm not designed to hustle and work hard. I'm designed to be a guide. I still work, but I just work in a completely different way. So what I was doing is I was just going out and hustling and like leadership, like go out there, make things happen,
Yes.
do this, like very corporate.
Harder, not smarter.
Yes, exactly.
Whatever the fuck that means anyway, but yes.
And I just I was beating myself up because I couldn't do it. And the women around me were completely rocking it. Like when I first started my business, I invested in very high level masterminds. Basically, I invested a lot of money to feel shit about myself because everyone else was like going out and rocking it. And I wasn't, and I didn't realize why. And I was beating myself up. I was comparing myself to others. Now I don't need to compare myself to others. I work with people very closely who are very, very different. Their energy is very different to me. The way that they show up is very different. The way that they attract opportunities in is very different to me. Years ago, I would have looked at them and been like, well, why can't I do that? Now I know that's not the way for me to show up. I show up in a different way, which means that I'm just like completely chill about the situation now, right? So I know exactly who I need to be. It's me. And I know how my energy works, and I know how to conserve my energy and how to be magnetic to my ideal clients and opportunities. And that then attracts in clients, collaborators, opportunities to speak on stages, to go and speak at events. I love creating opportunities for myself where I'm invited into things. So within human design, you have a strategy that you can follow. And my strategy is to wait to be invited. So I love being invited into things like this.
Right. I mean, I was going to say, when I said, would you come on my podcast? You were like, yes, I need to be invited. So that's fantastic. But when you said it, I was like, oh, I get it a little bit, not fully, but I've explored it a little bit, and it's pretty powerful. And I know a lot of people, yourself in that group, that work within it, and they are pretty spectacular achievers. I mean, other than also women, but just the achievements are pretty amazing too.
Yeah, it's a beautiful tool. And I talk a lot about the Aquarian age. We're in a new age now. We're moving out of the hierarchical, patriarchal systems, and we're moving into more collaborative, which is why I believe that women make incredible leaders, because our gifts naturally align to all of that. But this is about information sharing. It's about collaborating. And most importantly, it's not about following one leader and getting the answers from that leader. It's about finding the answers within ourselves. So what human design teaches us is to drop out of our heads and into our bodies, and to make decisions with our bodies as opposed to our heads. So actually, we are our inner gurus. We're the gurus. We don't need to follow a guru anymore, right? So leadership
Interesting.
in itself is changing, is shifting, and human design is a real Aquarian age tool. Kundalini yoga is as well, and that's why I love Kundalini so much. So Kundalini really helps us to tap into our feminine energies, and also EFT as well, emotional freedom techniques. So there's lots of tools that I work with, definitely, to really break the cycle of self-doubt and to really awaken that Shakti energy, which is one of the energy channels which I talk about a lot, which is that real divine feminine energy of receiving.
It's somewhere between the woo and the practical, is what it sounds like. Like, I mean, you are very much both those people. I mean, I know your background, and I know you came from this very corporate, high level with hundreds of people reporting to you. So I know I know you, so I happen to know that. But just even if I did not know that that was the case, I always call myself like creatively linear. So if I'm in a room with creatives, I'm linear. If I'm in a room with linear people, I'm always creative. And it's like, I just need to be put in that box. And I always thought that was a terrible thing, because I was never fully one person. And then it occurred to me that this is actually quite empowering, because it gives me the opportunity to make transitions and changes in a way that is comfortable for me, that if I were in one box, I would not see the opportunity in those other areas. But it's interesting because I mean, besides the fact that I see, I know my people, but you have that very similarly. There's a lot of spiritual, the universe, like guidance within there. And then there's like very practical tools attached to it on how to move forward with that in a way that I find fascinating in this universe.
Yeah, you're the bridge. What you just described to me, you're the bridge. I'm the bridge. We're the bridge. So yes, I work with the cosmic laws. I work with my spirit team. So I channel spirit guidance. I'm very spiritual and very awakened to all of that. But my feet are firmly on this earth.
Yes, that's what I said. Yes, that's so well put. Yes, firmly on this earth, but very much with a great deal of faith and spirituality.
Yes. And how amazing is that we're in this position, right? Because you have like these corporate people and these practical people that might not necessarily be attracted to someone that's like floating up in the ethers, like, woo, up here, like,
Right.
which is magnificent, but how are they going to be able to relate to that? So people like us, they'll look at us and think we're normal.
Right. Yes, completely. Completely. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm just like a little bit, she's a little eccentric.
Yeah.
That's sort of the most I've ever gotten is like, yeah, she's a little like, I can still like function in the area, but she's just a little marching to the beat of her own drum. And I'm like, oh, sweetie, you have no idea.
You don't know.
Approachable, right?
So we're like stealth missiles going in there. And I find that that's what happens when I do my corporate work, because obviously I position human design as a little bit different, but through that teaching of it and them engaging in it, naturally it starts to spark the interest, right? There's always something there. They're like, oh, I'd like to know more about this. And they can kind of go and explore that spiritual side of themselves, which is very important because the whole of corporate needs to, wake up.
We need a lot more spirit in those buildings. For sure.
Exactly. And then we've got these deeply incredible, oh my goodness, like gifted and talented women who have got beautiful gifts, but they have no idea how to ground it and to make money from it, right? And how to position themselves as experts. So we can then bring them down and ground them. So it's like we're bridging the two. And as we're moving into the Aquarian age, we need people like us to be able to have those bridges so that people can come over. From the old Piscean age, the hierarchical, patriarchal structures, and come over to the more collaborative way of doing things. So that's the way that I like to think of things.
Interesting. And the I don't know anything about this really. The Aquarian age is what you were describing as like more webbed, I guess. Is that a good?
It's what we're starting to experience now. I mean, you can see a lot of the old systems are crumbling, right? You can see it happening all over the world. And the Aquarian, and a lot of this happened with the introduction of the internet, actually, because before there used to be a very small part of the world, like people in the world that had all the knowledge, they had all the money, they had all the power, they were the leaders, everyone followed them, like with the blinkers on. And now people are like, hang on a minute, what do you mean? Like people are starting to challenge it. People are starting to look at things a different way. You can Google things, you can find information. Now, of course, you've got to be very selective, but
yeah, there's a lot of noise, but
we have more access to that now. And it's about collaborating together. It's about sharing resources. So it's not like I have all the power, I'm not going to give it to everyone. It's like, come on, let's share, let's collaborate.
Yes.
The retreat that we were talking about before I came on, I'm co-hosting a retreat in Bali in as we record in May. I'm sure there'll be more. But this is beautiful because all 6 of us are coming together and we're like, we are pooling our resources and we are sharing everything. It doesn't matter if I make 2 sales and you make 10 sales, we're still sharing everything. How amazing is that? It's so cool. And we all bring in different zones of genius. We're all different human design types. We all know about human design. So we're all working together and we understand how we work together. And it's just like, this is the new way of doing things. It's just so beautiful.
Yes. It's funny, in the corporate world, I ran administration and facilities. So I would hire a lot of administrative staff, whether that's receptionists or executive assistants or administrative assistants. And somehow it takes a little bit of bravery, is the truth. I would find somebody who I knew was better than me at what I was doing, or would be better than me at some point at what I was doing. And I started saying, initially you go through, oh, well, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to hire that person. It's a little scary. But the truth is, anytime and every time, and then I made it just like a rule of thumb. I was like, I want people who are better than me. Yeah. Because not only they make me look good, but I will learn from them. And I also want them to succeed. Like, that's just the truth. So in every possible way, it's like the collaboration. Yes. Then there's a level of trust that's built. Then you really can do interesting things. And it's a wonderful place to work. Mm-hmm. And I have also been on the receiving side of that backfiring when others who maybe were also in my lateral role, we're not comfortable with that. And it's interesting to see what does and does not work. It's interesting to see it, but it really is like, it does take a bit of faith when you've been wired. You know, I'm a Gen Xer, so like the women in corporate early on when I was a kid or when I watched were very like tight-lipped, and they don't share personal stuff because it creates a vulnerable place that we don't want to show any vulnerability. Like there's a whole level of learning that generationally we've done in that corporate that we're leaving now. I mean, it's going away, but it's interesting, like, because you can still see generationally, whether it's generational or learned over time from different generations. But that's, I dress like this, I talk like this, I don't talk about my personal life, I only talk about business, and I will push through like any man. And that's the way it was, like in the 80s and then the 90s in corporate, and before that in corporate. And it's interesting to see it, but it's also, then it drapes into women's personal life. So you don't share those things with your girls in your personal life either, because you're like, well, I don't want that. The thing that scares you that you will be empowered if you do it is actually what's empowering you. I said that very poorly, but you know what I'm saying.
I understand. We're all understanding what you're saying.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that the conditioning runs deep, and it takes a real maverick to do something like that. And I love that you did that, Carol. It's amazing because I always talk about leading from love, and you can think it's all like, oh, it's all fluffy, but actually it's not, because there are so many leaders in this world. You see that loud and clear. You see it's glaringly obvious. They are leading from fear.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They're leading from fear. All they care about is themselves.
Yeah.
They are the agenda.
Right.
It's all smoke and mirrors, and they do not give a shit about their community, about their people. It's all about them. That is fear leadership. When you lead from love, this is about empowering others. This is about inspiring others through the work that you do. And this is Aquarian leadership, right? One of the reasons that I decided, because I went through many iterations within my business, you know, I was a personal stylist, then I used to help women to speak on stages and speak to cameras. So I was a presentation coach. Then I used to help women leave corporate. And the reason that I finally settled about 5 years ago on doing what I'm doing is that one of the things that I was really, really good at in corporate, even though it wasn't my job, was helping people get promoted.
Oh,
That I
interesting.
would find people that had been overlooked for promotion for years. And these were incredible people. And I would be like, come on, I'm going to mentor you. And I would help them to be more visible within the business.
Isn't that amazing?
I would give them opportunities. I was a senior leader. I had access to lots of opportunities. I'd be like, I'm going to share these opportunities with you, and I'm going to teach you how to be visible, how to be iconic, how to stand out. And they would slowly but surely start to be more recognized and more visible within the business. I used to take them to head office. A lot of these people worked in remote sites.
Uh-huh.
So I used to take them to a head office. I'd be like, dress like this.
Right.
To this person.
Well, talk about maverick.
Walk down the staircase and make eye contact at 11 o'clock in the morning when everyone's getting itchy feet and wants a coffee break.
Yes.
And they would start being approached for projects to do project work. And then from that, they would then get promotion. Now, it wasn't good for my turnover in my team because a lot of these were my managers. But hey, this is what I really love to do. And I was like, I do this now. I just do it with business owners. It's exactly the same process. It's like, you're not standing out. People aren't recognizing you. People aren't inviting you into things. So let's look at how we're going to do that differently. But it's the same kind of theory.
Wow. This is interesting. I mean, for my business as well, but where you saw what you were doing in your business innately, like when you were in a corporate environment that people were paying you, like you were in the structure of the industry or the company, that you then were able to see, like, this is what I'm doing that I like. I can do this in a different way. Like the vision of it, it's pretty amazing because it's really like, it's hard for a lot of people to get that or to see that. I love that you talked us through how that happened, because I think that's always a mystery, like how we got to that point.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know about you, Carol, but I have pure PTSD from working in corporate. I mean, don't get me wrong, the company that I work with were really great actually,
Yeah.
and lovely people. But when I left, I was like, I want nothing more to do with the corporate world. Like, I must have cried my eyes out for about 2 months, like
Uh-huh.
in terror, like, and shock that I'd left my whole corporate identity behind. And now who am I? So I tried to disregard that. But the moment that I actually looked back and started to bring with me, we've spoken about this before, like looking at all your achievements that you've had throughout your life, looking at, okay, what am I really good at? What do people approach me for? It's always been that people have approached me all through my life, like help me to show up, whether it's going and getting dressed up for a party to go and attract, the guy that you fancy when you're in your
Yeah.
teens,
Yeah.
to getting that job interview, getting promoted, all of these things I now incorporate into my business.
It's amazing. And actually I wanted to go back a little bit because I think that from your story, from your origin story, quote unquote, of when you were in the cult and coming out, like to be that rebel in that environment, you really have to feel it in your bones off the bat, I would think. I think I'm safe to say that. Like it's interesting that it's been telling you this since, it sounds like since really birth, that this is how you have such this strong, I mean, you're a strong person, you're a strong personality, you have a strong spirit, but that doesn't necessarily mean it can't get quashed at times or like overpowered at times until you get there. And like, certainly as a child, I mean, I see it with my own daughter, like I don't, but I see how it happens. So when you were leaving that environment, or as you were growing up and it wasn't working for you, how did that kind of come out into this person? Because I'm sure that experience has to inform a lot of the confidence, even if it maybe didn't feel like it at the time, of doing all that you have done, because you have lived a spectacularly full, interesting existence. I'm sure it will continue to be that way. Just tell me a little bit the cult piece. It's interesting to me, like the belief system around it. Like people generally want something to believe in. Like I think most people want something to believe in. And so when something is close to them saying, I believe in this, it feels very warm and fuzzy if they can lean into it. But if it's not what you believe and it's that close to lean into, that's got to be wild. It's a long question, but
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about it? I think it's really an interesting and powerful piece of you.
Yeah, it is wild. Yeah, people need hope. I think everyone needs hope. And I was in an environment where there are a lot of people that had this hope. And I mean, I look back now, and this is my personal opinion, by the way,
Mhm.
but I believe it's complete brainwashing. And again, it's fear based leadership. So
Right.
basically, the way that I was brought up was, it wasn't just like I had to sit down and shut up. It was literally, if you dare challenge anything, we will not only cast you out of the organization so that none of your friends and family will ever speak to you again, but you'll also die a horrible death in Armageddon, like the end of the world.
Oh, wow.
So it's fear. It's fear. And I'm sure that there's lots of people with my spirit who are still in that organization because they're so scared. And I remember, do you remember when the Mayan calendar was coming to an end in 2012?
Oh, yes, I do. No, I do. I do.
And there were loads of people, especially in the States.
We do crazy things. I don't know why, but I
they,
do sometimes. But,
they were doing the
yeah.
bunker thing, right? Getting the bunkers ready for end of the world and all of that.
Yes, because the bunker is going to be safe at the end of the world. Yes.
So I'm over here like, but actually, I was petrified. And bearing in mind that I'd left the organization I'd left it a long, long time ago. And still there was that fear that was instilled in me, like the world's going to end, like the world's going to end. I was absolutely terrified. And I think at that point, that's when I just thought, I was still in corporate and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need to get rid of it. I need to get it out of my system. That's how deep it runs. And I never, ever felt that I fit in anywhere. I didn't fit in the cult. I was obedient and I did what I was told because I had a very loving but very controlling father, like Victorian father. and also the fear that was installed in you. So I was obedient and compliant, but you could just tell there was like an undercurrent, right? You could tell
Yeah.
I was ready to, there was something bubbling. And
Yeah.
then I never fit in at school because, I mean, I was brought up as a Jehovah's Witness. So I wasn't allowed to celebrate Christmas, birthdays. I wasn't allowed to like hang out with anyone at school, out of school. I mean, I was lucky that I went to school. A lot of children who are brought up like that are homed at school. So they don't have any association with the outer world. They don't get to meet anyone that's not in that organization.
Right. And that's, I mean, honestly, like I understand Jehovah's Witness, and this is, as you said, this is entirely my opinion, but that is the danger of any orthodoxy, regardless, is that is the danger of it, is that you then are in a silo and there is no outside information.
Yeah, and they keep you dumbed down. They keep you numb. They overwork you. So you do like door knocking and all of that. You're set. You're supposed to work so many hours, and you have to literally like a salesperson for the publications. That's basically what it is. And then they dumb you out, so you're not allowed to go into higher education because what happens when you go to college and university? You start to
You start
question
to,
things. So you're there, numbed out from everything. No wonder no one's really got a chance to do anything. I mean, I believe that I chose to come to this earth and I chose to be born into that family so that I could learn what I needed to learn, break away from that. And then what enabled me to do that is also part of what I teach.
right.
Because
Interesting.
when you are presented with losing everything, including your
Mm.
life, and you go against that, that is for me is freedom.
It's amazing. You said this a couple of times. It's not from a lack of love of your family. It's
No.
not from it. That's the, and that I think is also a piece. Like people demonize in one way or another. No, it's very human. This is acts of love, but this is the conflict, I guess. I mean, it's the conflict is so the wrong word, but
Yeah. I
yeah.
was third generation. So my mother was born into it. My dad, I think, was like 3 when his mum joined. And I remember I was interviewed a couple of years ago for a very big Sunday magazine, actually, here in the UK, a big publication. And they were trying to kind of get me to like blame my parents or make out that my parents were like abusive, like there was some kind of abuse there. And I was like, no, like they love me. They thought that this was the best for their children. They were doing their best.
Yes. And I'm sure that is the through line of all, most. I mean, some no, but yes, in all the things.
Yeah. I've had to do a lot of forgiveness work, a lot. And that's it's such an important part in any of this.
Yeah.
Forgiving my family, forgiving the men that ran the organization, like forgiving myself for all of this. And that's enabled, again, that's freedom because that's
Yeah.
enabled me to be able to tell the story from a place of compassion.
Yeah.
And that is part of my human design, actually, like really understanding. When you really understand why someone's done something, you have compassion for them. So therefore, there's no bitterness attached to it. It's just love for them.
That's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. I mean, it's as a tool, it's such a, I don't know, it feels like a pedestrian word for this. But I guess all of these things that allow you to become the best of who you are and then help others to become the best of who they are. I understand, tool is not maybe the best word, but at the same time, you kind of need it to be that simple on a certain level, right?
Yeah, I agree. Completely. I agree. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me, how do you take the lead in your own life? I feel like the entire conversation is answering that question, but I'll ask it anyway.
I follow my bliss. I fully trust myself and my body to make decisions. I always make sure that I align with my human design strategy because that's another tool that I've got in my life to be able to follow my strategy. I take lots of rest. I don't overwork. I don't hustle anymore to try and prove myself. I'm not attached to the opinions of others. I don't compare myself to other people. I admire other people and they inspire me, but I don't beat myself up because I don't feel good enough in comparison to them. I love my life. I love to travel. I love luxury experiences. I love gorgeous clothes. I love to go out and eat nice food. So I'm very, very grateful that I have a business and different streams of income and a community that is able to support that, to live the life that I want to live now, because I'm so grateful to have this life of freedom. I'm very grateful to live in the UK, where I know that I have certain advantages and certain amounts of freedom.
I'll say I'm slightly jealous at the moment, but we'll just stop it there.
Well, I don't know.
More than slightly, if I'm being honest.
Well, I mean, but I've got freedom because I choose it, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Regardless of external circumstances, you can choose to,
Yes.
is how you look at life and how you position yourself. And this is one of the reasons why I help women scale their business to 7 figures, because wealthy women are empowered women, because when we're wealthy, we have choices.
That's right. Isn't that why? Yes, that is so right.
That's one of the reasons that I like to travel as well, because I am very aware that I could live in this little bubble. I live in a place called Brighton in the UK, which is very open-minded and just amazing. So I kind of like flit from there to London, which is still very diverse and amazing. And then if I do like travel, it's kind of similar places. And I'm very aware that I could be living in this little bubble. So what I also like to do is go and travel and meet people, meet women. Like, for example, I've just come back from Egypt. And when I was in Egypt, part of that was really being in conversation with women in Egypt and speaking to them openly about their choices, their freedom, the differences, and how we can empower each other in very different circumstances. So I'm very big on supporting charities and organizations that really help to empower women, because I know that there's many people in this world that aren't as fortunate as we are. So then how can we help them? It's a different way that I empower them to maybe I would empower my clients. So that for me, travel is really important, so that we really understand and can educate ourselves. This world is a very diverse place and everyone has different opportunities. How are we going to come together to support one another?
Yeah, yeah. I feel that way about living in New York as well, obviously, because it's a bubble. It's a very lovely bubble, but it is absolutely a bubble. And that's why travel, it's such a funny thing. Like travel just, it really does shake your, if you allow it and you go to those places, it will allow you to sort of shake what's your reality versus what is the reality for others, which is massively different considering computers and where we are technologically too. That is still, we are still in these insane realities that are not the bubble that you and I think, are living in, or others are living in that way. It's a very weird reality, but it's good to be able to open it up and see it.
And to talk about it with the people that are affected, like, because our opinion of helping might be different to theirs.
It's true. It's true. And yes, and what they need, but, and also until you see, sometimes the idea, I find at least, until I've seen what's happened or see what's going on in, I mean, anywhere, it could be in New York, it doesn't matter. But like, until I've seen, I mean, this is a sort of, I'm not sure this is a good example or not, but New York was very different when I was growing up. It was much more diverse. It had a very different color to it. It had a very different socioeconomic environment to it, and was far safer as a result. And I mean, I love New York. I love my life. I am the privileged of privilege. So I can wield through this in this environment, but it's very different and it's very odd because I grew up here. So my friends who grew up here as well, and that's the diversity around it. But ultimately, like the diversity, quote unquote, is not all that diverse in a certain way. But having grown up with, I don't know, just in New York in the 70s and the 80s, where people were either from here, I mean, everybody came from different backgrounds, and their parent, it was the first generation of coming here. So everybody was speaking different languages, everybody had different skin colors, everybody had different religions, everybody had different, it was differences, and it was our neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. There were across the street from my apartment when I was a kid they're called SROs, they're single room occupancy. It meant that there was like a room and you shared the bathroom down the hall, and they were sex workers at the time. They were hookers, but this is where that we lived. It
Yeah.
wasn't, they weren't working here. Do you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So in the middle of the night, I would not be sleeping or something. And my dad, who was working late or something, would get me in the middle of the night, and we'd go to the corner to the Greek diner, and they would be coming off work and they'd coo at me. You know what I mean? It's just a very different reality than the reality now. And I feel very lucky to have experienced that reality, even like as a child. I mean, it was till I was in my 20s. So it was, but like, it's wonderful to be able to know that's life for real, not this. And I love this. Don't get me wrong. I love my daughter. She has a wonderful life, but I don't know, it's like grit's a bad word. I'm not thinking of very good words today.
I know, I understand what you mean. And like, one of my values is diversity. Like, it's really important for me to be around people from different cultures, backgrounds, ethnicities.
Mhm.
And that, again, is also part of my human design.
Mhm.
Because as much as I love you,
Mhm.
we do look, I think you're a little bit more petite than me, but we do look very
Yeah,
similar,
we look
right? And
exactly alike.
I'm going to learn so much from you because we're a different culture anyway. You live in New York, I'm UK. I learn so much when I'm around people that don't look like me.
Yes,
Someone once said
100%.
to me, never hire someone that looks like you,
Oh,
because you're just going to have a group of people that have got the same ideas, same backgrounds, same opinions, and nothing moves forward. You bring in people from different backgrounds, different walks of life, different opinions, and then you start to have this beautiful mixture of diversity within your team. And then you can have new ideas and move things forward.
I've never heard it said that way. It's such a good way to say it.
Yeah.
It's such a good, oh, wow.
I love it. And what a wonderful story about your dad taking you to the Greek diner and
Oh,
like,
it was like almost nightly. I mean, like that's,
it's so cool. I've just
yeah.
got a picture of that now. Hey, it's a bit like Amsterdam. It's a bit like our trip to Amsterdam.
Kind of, yeah,
Really
yeah,
hanging
yeah,
out with the
yeah.
hookers.
Exactly. It was a very safe environment.
Yeah.
Everybody had jobs and everybody did their thing. And I'm not saying like that it's not the same on a lot of levels. I would be tone deaf if I said it that way. But the truth is that we were just all people living in a neighborhood, and it was the neighborhood. I don't know. And it was very cool. My parents are very cool. They're totally fucking crazy, but well intended and very cool. And generally would get invited to parties well before I did of my friends. So yes, that is the upside of crazy parents, is they're hugely entertaining. And no, same with you. Like, regardless, they loved me very much, and but very open-minded in that way. So
Amazing.
we'll take it. We'll take it anyway. It has been such a pleasure talking to you. I just adore you in every way.
Likewise. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you. Same. So tell people where to find you, because I know after this hour-long conversation, they are chomping at the bit to know this.
So my website is abigailrebecca.com. As we're recording this, I've just had a brand new website for about 2 months, new branding, new brand shoots, photos. I'm incredibly proud of my website. So go and check it out. You can find my social links there, but I'm the Visibility Goddess. If you want to find me on social media, if you want to find out about your human design, you don't know what your human design is, you can download your chart there for free. And there's various courses on there, loads of free content. I've got a YouTube channel. Love for you to go and check that out. Again, that's the Visibility Goddess. So I'm, as you can imagine, because of the work that I do, I'm very visible. You can find
That's
me
a
very
very good way to
easily.
say it. You can find me anywhere. I love it. Brilliant. Oh, Abby. All right. Thank you. And I will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, please hit subscribe. You can also find me at carolpodell.com, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Carol Podell. You can watch this at She Takes the Lead podcast on YouTube. If you'd like to keep in touch, go to my website. I've got a few things I'd love to send you. In the meantime, mwah.